The Chicago Bears had a pretty disappointing season, as after starting out the year 5-1, they would only finish 8-8, and while they would make the playoffs, they would lose in the first round. In today's video, let's talk about what's next for the Bears and what they should do in the offseason to improve and have success. Before we do get started though, if you guys enjoyed today's video, make sure you hit that like button, as it really helps out the channel and it shows your support for this content. Subscribe if you guys are new and enjoy the content on here so you do not miss out on any new videos. And we are also on the road to 500 subscribers, and once we hit our goal, I will do a reaction to my first 2 videos ever. So if you guys want to see that and enjoy the content on here, make sure to subscribe. And with that being said, let's also get to the daily shout out, and that goes to the Makai Bruce. So go ahead and check out his channel in the description below. He makes really good basketball content. So if you guys want to see other content outside of me, make sure to check him out. But with that being said, let's get this video started. And I want to start out by talking about the Chicago Bears roster. And let's start out by talking about David Montgomery. And David Montgomery, he had a really good season, especially in Tarik Cohen's absence, as he had 1,070 rushing yards, 8 rushing touchdowns, and averaged 4 yards a carry. I mean, if you ask me, he is already a great player, and he's going to be an amazing player in the future. Tarik Cohen is the next player I want to talk about, and of course, I mentioned him before. Now, this past season, he did not really play this year due to an injury. However, when he is healthy and on the field, he is an excellent player, and he is, I see the guy as like a backup running back in the future due to David Montgomery's, emergence, but Tarik Cohen is still a really good player, especially as a receiving threat. Allen Robinson is the next player I want to talk about, and Allen Robinson will be a free agent this year. Of course, we'll get more into that later on in the video, but he is still one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. In this past season, he was really productive with 1,250 receiving yards, 6 receiving touchdowns, and he caught 67.5% of his targets. Darnell Mooney is the next player I want to talk about, and Darnell Mooney had a really solid rookie season, as he had 631 receiving yards, 4 receiving touchdowns, and caught 62% of his passes. And, Darnell Mooney, in the future, he can be really good. Next year, I do think he can have a breakout year. Jimmy Graham is the next player I want to talk about, and Jimmy Graham is not the player he once was, but Jimmy Graham, I'll say he's a solid player, and this past year he had 456 receiving yards and 8 receiving touchdowns and caught 66% of his targets. Moving on to the defensive side of the ball, I want to talk about Akeem Hicks. And Akeem Hicks is a pretty good pass rusher and run stopper. And this past year, he had 3.5 sacks and 29 pressures. Khalil Mack is the next player I want to talk about. And Khalil Mack, well, he is one of the best pass rushers in the NFL. He is extremely good. Now, his stats are not absolutely out of this world and all-time great, but this past year he had 9 sacks, 3 forced fumbles, and 31 pressures, which is still really good. And all I can say about Khalil is that he is an amazing player. Moving on, I want to talk about Roquan Smith. And Roquan Smith is one of the best linebackers in the NFL. He's solid all around. The guy is a really good run stopper, a pretty decent pass rusher, and a really good coverage linebacker. And this past year, he had 4 sacks, 1 forced fumble, 11 pressures, 2 interceptions, and 7 passes defended. Kyle Fuller is the next player I want to talk about. And Kyle Fuller, well, he is a pretty good cornerback, and he is a big part of this defense and one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL. In this past year, he had 1 interception and 8 passes defended. Jaylon Johnson is the next player I want to talk about. Now, Jaylon Johnson, we do know that but a lot of times cornerbacks, they take time to get used to in the NFL due to the fact that it is a really hard position to play. But Jaylon Johnson had a really good rookie year. He had when he was targeted, he allowed a really low completion percentage, and he had 15 passes defended. Tashawn Gibson is the next player I want to talk about, and he is not, some crazy good all-pro safety, but he is still a really solid player, as he had 2 interceptions and 7 passes defended this past year. And the final player I want to talk about is Eddie Jackson. Now, Eddie Jackson did have a down year. but he is still one of the best safeties in the league. And this past year, he didn't have any interceptions, but he had 5 passes defended. But hopefully, next year, he can play like his normal all-pro self. Now, the Bears' defense is really good. I mean, that is the part we can all agree on, even if you're a Packers fan. But, like, no matter how much you hate the Bears, no doubt that their defense is really good. However, their offense is not good. And really the big issue with this team by far is the quarterback position. They are just one good quarterback away from being one of the best teams in the NFC. They could really compete with the Green Bay Packers if they had a good quarterback. And they really should try to find the answer at the quarterback position this year in this year's offseason. Now, I have seen some people say that they should trade for Deshaun Watson, and personally, I do think Deshaun Watson could be an option. Now, they will have to give up a lot for Deshaun, I will say that. And that could hurt the team, as they will probably have to give up a solid starter. And, all those draft picks, I mean, they could use it to help, improve the team. So I will say that about Deshaun Watson. However, he would be a really good option at quarterback if they can make it work. And I have seen people say, oh, you can always trade for Russell Wilson too, which have also been rumors lately. And, I mean, Russell Wilson wouldn't be a bad option either. Same case with Deshaun Watson, I guess, like somewhat. You will have to give up a lot for him, but he definitely could be worth it. Now, I will say Russell Wilson is aging, so, I mean, that would be a win-now move, but, hey, Russell Wilson would not be a bad option at all. I mean, in fact, he'd be a really good option. They're just one good quarterback away from being a really good team, as I said before. And I do not see them keeping Mitchell Trubisky, and I mean, I can't totally blame them. He has not been that good for the Bears like when he was with them. Gardner Minshew could actually be an option, and I mean, I'm not saying that jokingly. Gardner Minshew, I mean, he's actually shown signs he could be a franchise quarterback, and I mean, they should not overcommit to him, but Gardner Minshew could definitely be an option. Derek Carr, I mean, there have been some trade rumors, but I mean, Derek Carr actually would not be a bad option, and I know a lot of people will clown me for that and will think, why would they want Derek Carr? Now, Derek Carr does have a decently sized contract, and he is not elite, but Derek Carr, I mean, if he is available on the trade block, I don't think he would be horrible, as he's actually a pretty solid quarterback. I also think they could target someone like Sam Darnold if the Jets do plan to take a quarterback in this year's draft. As Sam Darnold, he's never had the greatest circumstances. Now, of course, I will say that he hasn't exactly played well, but even then, the bad circumstances didn't exactly help them. Now, getting to the free agency part, Allen Robinson will be a free agent, and they should definitely do their best to retain him. Now, there have been a lot of rumors of him leaving the Bears, but they should still, make a run at him. And if he leaves, well, hey, at least you did try. But, I mean, for obvious reasons, the fact that he's one of the best receivers in the NFL, they need to do what they can to bring him back. They should definitely do what they can. Now, they do not have a lot of cap space. In fact, they are a little bit over the cap right now. But if they were to restructure Robert Quinn and Nick Foles and cut Jimmy Graham, as Jimmy Graham is aging and they already have a lot of tight ends, and Buster Skrine, they can get to $17 million, which is an okay amount. It's not terrible, and I mean, they probably won't be absolutely crazy in free agency, but, that is still a decent amount. Now, some free agent targets they could, guys they could go after in free agency could be someone like Jameis Winston or Cam Newton. Now, Cam Newton, I know a lot of you guys will clown me for that, but Cam Newton didn't exactly have great circumstances in New England. The weapons were not good, and if they can supply him with decent weapons and a good enough offensive line, I think he could possibly be pretty decent for them. Jameis Winston could actually be fine for the Bears if they provide him with the right circumstances. Now, in the event Allen Robinson leaves, which there is a decent chance, no offense, Bears fans, I mean, Kenny Galladay could be an option. Now, chances are he will be decently expensive, so, I mean, Kenny Galladay could be an option. Corey Davis would be really good. Juju Smith-Schuster could also be pretty good, and of course, don't clown me for that. Juju Smith-Schuster is actually a pretty good player, aside from, like, the whole Corvette TikTok stuff and his cockiness, but, Curtis Samuel also would be a really good player for this team. He is a really good slot receiver, and just a really solid player, in general. And to help improve the offensive line, as they are not great on the when it comes to the offensive line part. They could get someone like Brandon Scherf or Joe Tooney or Austin Blith or Trent Williams or Kelvin Beachum. They would be pretty good. Now, Kelvin Beachum is, and Trent Williams are both kind of old, but hey, they're still really productive players. And if they want to improve the secondary a little bit, which they could use some work on, William Jackson and Mike Hilton would both be pretty, decent options. But that's really what I would do in free agency. Definitely do your best to bring back important guys. I mean, Cordell Patterson would also be cool, as he's a really good special teams player and a really, fun guy on Twitter. Plus Allen Robinson. I mean, they should definitely do their best to bring him back, because even if he leaves, at least you did try. And I mean, he's still a really good player. Now, getting to the draft, they will own the 20th pick in this year's draft, and they should obviously look to improve any weaknesses, and that could be quarterback, or look to improve the offensive line, or wide receiver position. Now, I don't see any elite quarterbacks being available there, but some draft targets could be someone like Christian Darrisaw or Rashawn Slater. Rashawn Bateman wouldn't be a bad option at wide receiver either, or Aaliyah Vera-Tucker. Hopefully I said that right. I'm pretty sure I did. Mac Jones, if he is available, maybe they take him as early as the 20th pick, as they probably just want to make sure they have a good quarterback, and Mac Jones could be good. And then later in the draft, if they don't get Mac Jones, maybe someone like Kyle Trask, they could take someone like him. But yeah, that's what I really have to say for the draft. Address the wide receiver position and the offensive line, or get a quarterback if you still don't have a good QB by the end of by the end of free agency, when most of the big name star players have signed. Now, that's really what I have to say for the Bears in this year's offseason. They could have a pretty busy offseason, but they will have to find their answer at quarterback, this offseason, as I said before, as they have a really good roster. All they're missing is a good quarterback. But with that being said, that will be the end of today's video. If you guys enjoyed, make sure you hit that like button, as it really helps out the channel. Subscribe if you guys are new and enjoy the content on here, so you do not miss out on any new videos. And we are also on the road to 500 subscribers, and once we hit our goal, I will do a reaction to my first 2 videos ever. So if you guys want to see that and enjoy the content on here, make sure to subscribe. Also, go ahead and check out my man Mekhi Bruce in the link to his channel will be in the description below. But anyways, with that being said, I'm out, you guys.